inside my .NET and I'm here, right? So what I want to do is I want to come out of my .NET and I want to get these, I want to get this information out in the SOPs, right? So if I click here, I have, we can see I have, so I have a pressure field, a density field, and a volume field, right? So, and these are just these box boxes. So 72 by 62 by 132. They're all the same size because they're all coming from the smoke oven. So over here, you guys have probably dealt with this already. I have this .import field, right? So that just means import fields from my my dot object, right? So up here, I have .network, right? So I'm .1, and I'm getting my .node, I'm getting my smoke object. So if I click here, I should have, yeah, density, right? So this is density 72, 62, 132, just like I had here, right? So that's pretty simple, like just type in .import field, fill this in with your .network, fill this in with your smoke object, and then you'll get this, right? So this is actually reacting to my lights and my camera, right? And it's got shadows and it looks all cool and fluffy, right? So this is the main. So let's talk about like what this actually looks like, right? So this is, at first glance, you're like, yeah, that's cool. This is actually a really shitty set, right? It doesn't look very good. Well, if you're going for ink and water, kind of like the cover of the new SCAD whatever catalog, yeah, it's great. Like you're getting like these kind of like mushroom cloudy looking things. So what is causing this, right? A lot of people are like, oh, this sucks because it's super smooth and da-da-da-da. This isn't physically wrong, right? So basically what's happening is you're having like this massive amount of velocity hitting something that's just not moving at all, right? So it's all this pressure is coming out of this system and then hitting something that's not moving, right? So you have all this pressure coming in and basically hitting a brick wall, right? So if I were to like shoot smoke at a brick wall, what would happen? It would go, right? And it would make this mushroomy look, right? The reason we don't see this very much in nature is because there's always some sort of current in our atmosphere. I mean, even if you think about this room, yeah, like I'm getting some, like have you ever done that before? If you've never done this, God, you guys need to go outside more. Like if you want to know, you've never seen this before.
But why are you doing that?
You've never, like, so if you want to know which way the wind is blowing, you lick your finger, put it up in the air, and you turn it, and whenever it turns cold, that's the direction. Are you fucking kidding me? You've never done this before? You guys need to get out more. Seriously, you've never done this. Have you? Canadians, you've definitely done this before.
No.
Except for in the winter, your finger just freezes and falls off. Yeah, that's the way the wind is blowing. I need to pick up my finger. I go to the hospital. Right? So, anyway. Wow. Okay. But there's always current, right? We live in an atmosphere that's always moving. So this, to us, looks very, very unnatural, right? There are only very few times this actually happens, like nuclear explosions, right? Because that's just it's a massive amount of force going up into a lot of relatively still air, right? If you take the ratio of the force of a nuclear blast and the stillness of the air, that's a huge ratio, right? So it's going to go up, it's going to hit that, and going to go like that, right? So we want to, take steps to minimize this kind of like marshmallowy, blobby look. And there's a bunch of different ways we can do this, which hopefully I'll get to. But anyway, so right now I'm only bringing in my density, right? I can bring in also I can bring in the same smoke object 1. And if I go over here and looks, I can bring in my velocity. Right, so there's my velocity. So now I have vel, x, y, and z, right? Because velocity is a vector, right, in space, and my density, right? So that's pretty cool. And it's also pushing this around a little more. And this is all just visualization, right? Which is pretty cool. Right, and then we also have pressure. So I can, if I don't want to see this extra kind of fuzziness, I can just turn off I can say no change to my visualization, right? And then, so I still have my velocity and my density. Rainbow, right? So now I'm seeing my velocity as color, right? So for here, there's no velocity, so there's no color. And then as soon as we push this, like it's pushing that velocity out. So it's basically coloring the smoke based on its X, Y, Z, right? So this is moving mostly this way, right? So like you can actually see this, right? This is actually really cool, right? So if we look, right, stuff that's moving mostly this way is blue, right? Stuff that's moving mostly this way is red. Stuff that's moving mostly upwards, like this is moving mostly upwards, is green, right? And then you have a combination, right? So that's actually pretty cool.
Professor, I have a
Yes.
question. So for like visualization, it doesn't render when you.
No, it will not render those colors. You'll have to do that yourself.
Yay.
Hopefully we'll get into that. All right. What else? What else? What else? So that's my velocity as an isosurface. Invisible, right? So you just turn it to invisible if you don't want to see it at all. But it's still there, right? Like I still have that vel X, Y, and Z. So later on, like if you wanted to do this even more, like if you wanted like little, like if you wanted to emit particles into this, right, and do like little like little hot embers inside this smoke, you could use that velocity as a particle force, right? Because it's velocity for velocity's sake, right? So velocity, everything is data. It doesn't matter if it's velocity coming off of a point or out of a voxel box, like Houdini will respect it. It's like, oh, velocity, I'll push whatever around with these vectors that you've given me, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that's my import. That, and then if I want to, so let's get into import density. All right. So what I want to do is I'm going to let's see. I want to cache this out. Yeah, I want to cache this. So that's my .import. I'm going to do a file cache. And then after this, I'm going to do a no. Right, and this will actually be what I'm going to render. So I could actually, if I wanted to, if I wanted to keep my kind of like my setup and my render separate, I could copy and paste this into just another geometry object and not have to worry about it. Actually, what? Oh, forgot he was in there. Right, so I'll leave this as my out, and then I'll come out here and I'll say I'll call this So now I have, basically I should have, that's the same thing, yeah, so I get the same thing here, right? So what I want to do is I want to cache this out, so I'm only going to 80. Channel, 80. So I'm just going to 80, and I'm just going to cache this guy. So the first thing I want to do is run this out. I'm not going to get through nearly as much stuff as I thought I was going to get through today. The other thing I did just kind of like on the sly is I turned on the bottom bounding, so it's acting like the bottom is acting like a collider. So it's like hitting the bottom and it's not just leaving the space, it's like colliding and kind of sliding up like that. Okay, so there's that. So let's render this. OS 4. So what this OS is, so basically what this is saying is my file name, right? So I don't want to do that. I want to do pig 0, right? So this is my same kind of like naming convention I always work with. And then $OS, so this will say file cache, right? So I don't want to say that. I want to say pig. So what this will do is it'll say this OS, this $OS is going to just look at whatever this name is, right? Another trick that I've seen a lot of people do is if you're making a bunch of group nodes, instead of naming the group, you just put $OS and then you name the node, and then that will also generate a group like that, right? So frame 4 VGO, yeah. So this. Probably should have done that. So while that's up, there we go. So this guy. So now this should run. Yeah. So now this one is running really fast because this is saved. This is saved. Just gonna read these files. Okay. So I'll read these files and come to my null, and then Ghost. So I'm gonna read those files and see, we can see that like this is hitting the bottom and kind of spreading out. Okay, all right. So that's that. And then so I'll call this. Render pigs. Right. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to set up my mantra renderer, which I kind of already have a little bit. Out. So here I have my mantra. So let's say I want to, like I have this big complicated sim, and I've turned up all my settings, and I want to send this to the farm, and then as soon as my sim is done, I want to render it. Like you can do that in Houdini. It's pretty dope. Right? So I'm going to make a geometry. And this is in the out, right? So this is different from geometry node over here. Right? So in my mantra node, I want to make sure rendering objects. So instead of saying render everything, right? Because this candidate objects, that's what it's saying. I'm going to get rid of that. Right, and I only want to render my, so for my lights, I'm just going to render all my lights because I might move those around. But for my objects, I only want to render my pig split. So I'm going to put that in the force objects, right? So no matter what else is turned on or off, it's only going to, so I can have all this stuff on, and it's only going to render exactly what I would tell it to, which is dope, right? Because then you can have like multiple mantra renderers, and they can all render different stuff if you wanted to do that, right? It's kind of like render layers, the old render layers in Maya. So yes, okay. So this is just another way to. There's like 10,000 ways to cache out stuff in Maya, or in not Maya, Houdini, right? So this is just another output file, right? So this is another output file. So what I want to do is I want to take opener. Actually, I want this. Sorry, I want this to be down here. And cache that. Actually, I'm just going to do a file, just straight up tile. Like, and I don't really have to connect this to anything, but could do this just to say that this is what I'm rendering. So this is caching, right? So caching is like you're bringing something in, you're caching it out temporarily, and then you're spitting it out, right? This is kind of like more like an in-game type thing, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my render pixel and drag it over here into my geometry, right? So it's gonna say, I'm bringing in my geometry, and then I'm gonna output these files, right? So I'm gonna take and steal this guy. And I want to render frame range, so that'll go from 1 to 80. I think that's all we need. So if I do, yeah, so I need to initialize my simulation ops. So if I want to run my sim and then cache everything out, that's what this is gonna do for me, right? So I don't have to go sim and then cache and then render, right? It'll do this automatically. So it says forces all simulation ops to be reset, include the dot network, stop networks, and blah, 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 blah. So I do want to turn that on, right? Yes, okay. Pretty much everything else I can leave. So, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this output, I'm gonna copy this parameter, and over to this file, I'm going to paste it. Right, so whatever this guy is, this guy's gonna be. And it's saying, no, I don't like this because there's nothing in there. Right, so I'm going to, let's do that one more time, so disk. There we go. So this is much faster. So basically what I've done over here is I've saved out my geometry in my output, and then I've spit that back into here, right? So I can actually see what's going on. So now, and this is the cool part, so there's a couple different things I can do. I could use, if I want to do a bunch of different versions of these, I could use like what Michelle did. I could use like a wedge nodes, right? And I could change a bunch of parameters per wedge. That's pretty straightforward. You can do that on your own. Here's the thing that no one ever tells you. If I do this, if I click from here to here, and I do a render from my mantra node, and I do here, and say, instead of frame by frame, I do node by node. Right? So node by node means, and I can have a bunch of these stacked on top of each other. Node by node means go from the top of this stack, right? So for this guy, and run everything on this output driver, and then render. Don't render until I'm actually done with this. So I can have like 3 or 4 simulations stacked on top of this, right, hooked up to here, and it'll run all my simulations and then render everything. That's crazy. Like, that's super cool. Because this is what's going to allow you to very, very efficiently use the render farm. Because at this point, what I've done is I'm not only using the render farm, I'm also using the render farm for a simulation farm, right? Because it's saying I'm not going to render anything until I simulate everything that is dependent on the node that I'm looking at over here, which is crazy. So I'm still getting this guy here, because he's still right, so there's my paper. Right, that matches. Okay. So let's talk about some quality settings, right? So under 32-bit, I'll make sure I'm at 38-bit. I'm spitting out the XRs. Under rendering, so pixel sampling. Like if we look at this, so this is basically your main kind of throttle control. If you I would never put this above 6, because what this is doing is per pixel, right? And it's X and Y. So this is a pixel, single pixel. by 3 and 3, it means I'm making 3 divisions this way and 3 divisions this way. So it's subsampling, right? So these are, I'm doing 9, basically doing 9 pixels, 9 samples per pixel, right? If I cut this up, if I do this to 4, right? It's not like you're just doubling it, right? You're quadrupling. So if I do this, right? It's squared. So 5 is, so already going from 3 to 4, you're going from 9 to 16 samples per pixel. So it'll look good, but it's going to take a while, right? So, and a lot of times you can get away with other things with your pixel sampling. But that's just kind of like the overall throttle control to make it look better. And then you also have these diffuse reflection quality, refraction quality. You can push your noise level down if you want to, right? So if I did maybe right, so it's, I can see it on my screen. It's very, very minimal. But you would want to push this down to a point. And then the other thing is volume quality, right? So volume quality is basically that. It's volume quality. The higher this is, the better your volume is going to look. The longer it's going to take to render. Yeah. You can also turn on adaptive sync. So yeah, there's the noise level coming into effect. Because I don't think I don't think this does anything when you're in just straight up ray tracing. You have to be either in micropolygon physically based or physically based render. That's when this kind of comes into effect. And that's moreover the kind of everything's moving towards either micropolygon physically based or the just the PBR, right? So we can see this is much smoother going from that to that, right? Can you see that on the screen? You can mostly see it here on the edges. Right? And then, but it was considerably so, right? And then I can say volume quality.